My name is JD, and I'm here to talk to you about gun control. Now, I know what you're thinking right away. I don't care about your thoughts on gun control, and as my friend James would be quite accurate in pointing out, no one cares, JD, what your thoughts about gun control is. No one cares, JD, what my thoughts about gun control is. They don't care what the pig down Congress thoughts about gun control is. Only person they care about gun control is President Obama, and he is already very well spoken about how he think about gun control. I tell you what, right now. That's actually how he does it. I kid you not. Puts the joke right out of the way. So what I'm here to do in my little man cave of Campbellton, New Brunswick, even though I am a U.S. citizen, is to tell you what gun control is going to look like, how it gets passed through Congress, and do you want your congressman to vote on it when it finally gets through? This is absolutely how it's going to work. And it's probably the only way it's going to work, as we've discussed it around here. So, proof I'm a taxpayer, we're going to light this baby up, take a drag, and we're going to talk to you. Ooh yeah, that be some good stuff right there, I tell you what. So, I brought plenty of props, don't get me wrong. And just for the record, I want to give a couple shouts out. Shout out Senator Enzi of Wyoming. Senator, sir. If you want to get in touch with me, you can get me through my cousin, Jeff Garvin III, out there. Because he's going to call my phone up here in area code 506. He's going to call about 13 times, leave me 13 messages in 5 minutes. So you know you're going to get a hold of me. So if you want to do it, that's how you do it. Anyone else? No Jeff Garvin out there. You can get a hold of me directly. Hi, Jeff. Now, point is, I'm gonna talk to you. I'm a real political junkie. There's an easy way to know if you're a political junkie, because every once in a while, guys will reach off screen, and they're being fake. They're not real politicians, and they will pull up a glass of water. You know I'm a real politician because this be coffee, which by the way is also taxed. This be coffee. It's set in percolator 3 hours, and as my friend James would say, that stuff's thick as mud and will wake you up in the morning, I tell you what, right now. So, coffee, for the record. Now we got the ice broken. There's a particular process that a bill needs to go through to get, passed in Congress. Oh, that reminds me, note to self, the crayons on the wall, don't worry about that. It washes right off. But I do have to make a note to myself when I'm watching this video back. I do need to reimburse the 5-year-old who lent us the crayons that we could do this political video in the interest of full disclosure. So here we have, you have the House, you have the Senate, and you have the executive office, i.e. President Obama. And he wants to get a bill passed. He's got two places he can go. He can go to the House of Representatives. For all you people used to a parliamentary process, this is about like your House of Commons. These are your regular folk, right? And then he has the Senate. And this is your more aristocratic body. People with a little bit more money so they can have a longer term. That's your Senate. So you got your House and you got your Senate. They both function a little bit differently. So now, if it was James and I disagree on this. If it was James would tell you it has to pass the House. Has to pass the House in order to get anywhere. If it don't pass the House, it ain't going anywhere anyway. So it's got to pass the House before it can go to the Senate. And as you know, my wonderful fallacy of pointing that out is the House of Representatives right now is controlled by a group called the Republicans, where the Senate is controlled by a group called the Democrats. That's the Great Republic of the United States of America. So, how do we get a bill passed? Well, I have a nickname for the Senate, and this is why I would say the president, who also happens to be a Democrat, would go through the Senate first to get a bill passed and not the House. Why? Because it's run by Democrats. It's also what I call the pig farm. Why do I call it the pig farm? Well, to get a bill passed in the Senate, the first thing you need is 60 votes so it can go to a vote. I know that sounds a little weird, but you need 60 votes so it can go to a vote. If you don't have 60 votes, somebody can stand up, say, I object, and you have to call a roll to vote to see if you can get the guy who objects off his seat, and that takes 60 votes. If you don't, it's called a filibuster. So it's 60 votes. Well, right now in the Senate, you have 53 guys called Democrats, 2 guys that are supposed to be independent, but let's face it, they caucus with the Democrats, they're going to vote with the Democrats, and you have 45 guys called Republicans. They're evil. Evil Republicans. Don't trust a Republican, kids. So, this is a process. So you have to get that 60 votes. Obviously, if you've got 53 guys who are on your side, 2 guys that pretty much are on your side, you're still short 5 guys. I hate to tell you this, but this is the God's honest. Math don't lie. If you need 60 votes, you only have 55 votes. You gotta get 5 votes, folks. So, truth be told, how are we going to do this? Well, the way you do this, and this is the way the game works in Congress, right? You got to sell somebody something. So, you got to sell somebody something, because the wonderful thing about Congress is you're not going to vote for mob bail, but I need to get mob bail to you in the Senate, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to offer you some money. This is taxpayers' money, and like taxpayers' money goes like that, quick. So I got to offer somebody some money, or I got to give them some concession, something that's going to get them to bring it to the floor, even if they're not going to vote for it as a bill, but they'll allow it to go to the floor. So we load that with what we call pork, which is basically a way of saying, yes, we're giving you money. We're giving you a pig. You know, it's a pig. So one of the reasons we call it the pig farm. You put a bunch of pigs out there, you see who bites, and then the time the actual vote, the vote that matters, the vote that's 51 people, or at least 50 people, something that puts it over a majority, you can slaughter those pigs at that point. But until you get to that point, you got to grill some pigs. So who do you go to? You got 2 people who run this place, and a guy who presides over it. The 2 people, of course, running it is Harry Reid, who's the majority leader, and you have Mitch McConnell, who is what we call the minority leader. And the guy that's supposed to sit in between them and kind of like to control the thing is a person by the name of Biden. Former Senator Biden, yep, he's one of these aristocratic guys. That became what we call the Vice President of the United States, and he kind of sits in between. He says, okay, what do you want? What do you want? Okay, let's go for it. So, you have those people going off all over the place. Now, see, Mitch McConnell says, I don't want gun control. I got this NRA thing over here, and it kind of messes me up. And Harry Reid's going, well, I'm good with the NRA. Don't get me wrong on that. But I got these people over here that I need to get elected, and they kind of want gun control. So what am I going to do? I got to put a bill through, right? The president wants a bill through. He goes to Harry Reid. Why? Because Harry Reid's his friend. He's his chum. They'll go golfing on a Saturday just for the hell of it. So he goes to Harry Reid. Harry Reid goes to Mitch McConnell and says, can I get this through? Mitch McConnell says, probably not. However, and this is why, one of the reasons why I say it should go through the Senate first, Mitch McConnell has an election coming up. So this is the really sneaky thing about politics. You load up a bunch of pork in your bill as you're writing it up behind closed doors, and what they call a closed caucus session, which basically means all the Democrats are there, maybe the 2 independent guys are there, but nobody on Mitch McConnell's side is there. That's not going to happen. So, and we're going to load this baby up with pork from Mitch McConnell's district, so he has to want it to come in. Because if Mitch McConnell don't want it to come in, you're going to be selling your ass off to get 6 other Republicans. So you can bring this thing to a vote. They might not vote yes for it, but they're going to bring it to a vote. So there's the first guy that you want on your team for this. Because, of course, you're President Obama, you want this gun control thing solved by 2014, because then you have the midterm elections, and then, things are winding down, and if the Republicans take the Senate, you ain't getting that gun control bill. So, we've gone from the President to the Senate, and that's where we are. So we have the closed caucus session, they write up the bill, and in the closed caucus session, the 2 people that Harry Reid are immediately going to go to are a person by the name of Bernie Sanders of Vermont. He's a senator, and no matter what Harry Reid needs, he needs Senator Saunders, who's not a Democrat, point this out to you. He's technically what you call an independent. He's going to say, well, are you going to sign on to this? Are you going to vote for this? And, what do I have to sell you? Do I have to sell you a horse to get to do this? So he's going to go to him first. Next guy he's going to go to is a couple states over, a guy by the name of Angus King from the great state of Maine, where I live. And he's going to go to Angus, and he's going to say, Angus, buddy, chum, let's have a couple slabs of beef and talk this over some Pennsylvania stuff. What is it going to take to get you to sign on to this? What's it going to take? So those are the two. He's always got to have those two people on. If he doesn't have those two people on, it's probably 90% likely going to fail. So those two people, he gets those two people on first. That's why they're with him in this close caucus session. If they're not with him, he's pretty much bought their vote, giving them a couple pigs, as we call them. So who's left? You've given pigs, pork, whatever, to Senator McConnell. You sold him a couple pigs. It still leaves you with four votes that you've got to get. So where are you going to get those votes? While you're talking to Angus King, you're going to talk to his buddy from Maine. That would be Senator Susan Collins. Why do you want to talk to Susan Collins? Because Susan Collins has this wonderful history. She's one of the very, very few holdouts still in the Senate that, hey, you give me a pig and a goat and I'll vote for anything, right? You give me a defense contract and something in the farm bill, hey, I'm going to vote for this. So she's pretty good at doing that. So she's, a lot of people use the term rhino. I like to use the term sellout. She's a sellout. You can buy her vote, and she might not vote for the gun control. It's kind of like what she is, but she probably, will at least not take this to a filibuster if you give her some good force. So you give her a pig and a goat, and she's happy. So you've done that to McConnell, you've done that to Collins, you're still 3 votes shy. Now, see, here's where it gets tricky. Because you remember, Mitch McConnell, hey, I got these people called the NRA I gotta deal with. You read, hey, I'm good with the NRA, I can talk a game a little bit if I need to, but, I understand. What's happening right now is you have a midterm election coming up, 2014. And in the midterm election, there are about 9 Republican people that are up for re-election that have to answer to the NRA because their districts are very, very hardcore down in the South, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, very, very hardcore Southern districts. And the hardcore Southern districts are the NRA's like brain trust. It's their cash cow, So you have 9 Republicans that have that problem, pretty much, give or take. Here's Harry Reid's problem with that. He's got 9 Democrats that have the same problem. They're from the South, and they are going to tell you that they're good with their peeps and all that, but they really can't cross this NRA right now. So we'll get to that in a minute. Right now, it's just getting this to a vote. They'll let it go to a vote. They have no choice. It's not getting to a vote in the Senate unless every Democrat allows that. So right now, you're selling Republicans. So you got 2. You got Susan Collins, easy sell, give her a pick and a go. Mitch McConnell, give him a bunch of picks. You want to keep that guy happy. So who else do you have? Well, you got a couple of other people who are sellouts. There are different types of sellouts. We have different types of sellouts. It's what makes America great. So you have Paul Ryan and you have Rand Paul. They will sell out to get this to a vote. They will probably vote no, but they'll sell out to get it to a vote. And the easiest of the two, and the guy you want on your side for this, is Paul Ryan. How do you get Paul Ryan on your side? Well, this is the easiest element, and all the Republicans go, shh, don't tell them this, don't tell them this. Now, Paul Ryan is going to sell out on a budget principle. What he wants is a rider attached to the bill that says we will have a constitutional amendment vote on a balanced budget amendment to the United States Constitution. He's going to want a couple of cuts here or there to some federal programs. So in one sense, you're slaughtering a pig to get this guy. you know, you're doing the sacrifice thing. Hopefully, you got Voodoo Mama down there, and James can probably pull her out of his Rolodex from Louisiana down there. I'll tell you what. So, Paul Ryan, easy as pie. He's on board. You put that in the bill, he will let it go forward. Probably won't vote for it, but he's going to let it go forward. On the off chance that you can't get him, you got Rand Paul. Rand Paul is a different type of sellout. He's that, you know, anti-war, very, very what we would call the hardcore Rockefeller Republican type of guy who wants things tight, he wants them narrow, and he doesn't want us overseas. Forget everyone else. Let's close our borders off. Get rid of the Mexicans. Get rid of the Chinese. You know, you bumped from England. You can go back home too. We don't want any more of your au pair nannies. Come on, give us a break. He's that kind of guy. So, anti-Iraq, anti-Afghanistan war. So, you give him a few defense cuts, he's happy. So you've slaughtered another pig. So you've kind of like, in a way, done this little pay game where you've slaughtered a couple pigs, which, you know, were in the defense industry and the social services industry. And you've given a couple pigs to Sue Collins, you've given a couple pigs to Mitch McConnell. Hopefully you're down to one, but the odds are you're down to two at this point. Two people that will let this thing go past filibuster. And then you're on a list. And right at the top of this list would be my man, said hi to him earlier, Senator Enzi of Wyoming, who, there's a ton of pork you could give this guy, and he's going to let this thing go to filibuster. He's voting no. There's no question he's voting no. But as long as it's a likelihood that it's going to pass, and you're giving this guy pork, he's going to let it go. He's probably going to ask for that pork in another bill. Most of the time, that is how it's done. You give me pork in another bill, and then you put this bill forward, and I'll let it go past filibuster, and there you go. So you load this baby up, you let it go past filibuster, and it looks good for him. It's like, yeah, I got us, you know, I got us a little game preserve, I got us some better hunting conditions, I got us a, you know, developing coal up there in Yellowstone. We're good to go. So you have Senator Enzi. After Enzi, it kind of gets a little bit dicey. You got one guy left. You got a few guys that are up for re-election. Pork them up. They'll probably let it go through. You probably want to try to shoot for two of these guys on the off chance you can't get Paul Ryan, who's also up for re-election, by the way. So you got Senator Fisher, you got Senator Alexander, you got Senator Sessions. The guy I would go to, honestly, if I'm doing this whole pig farm thing, would be Senator Chambliss. And this is the reason why. He's not up for re-election. He's walking away. He's tired of the whole bullshit. You know, I think if you had a dinner with the guy right now, he'd say, forget this fucking bullshit. I'm done with it. So he's tired of the bullshit. So he's leaving the pig farm. So on the way out, he can get a couple of, you know, nice pigs to take home in a little retirement account. You know, a little home out there in Georgia. He's from Georgia. So we say to ourselves, we say, okay, we got Senator Chambliss, he's easy enough. We got Senator Collins. We've got either Paul Ryan or Rand Paul or some Paul. So right now we're not robbing Peter to pay Paul yet, but we've definitely got a Paul on board, and we got Mitch McConnell on board. We got one of these other guys. Lamar Alexander, nice guy. I like him. He's a good guy. He ran for president once, by the way, if you didn't know that. Lamar Alexander, he's a decent guy. He'll do what's good for Tennessee. He's from Tennessee. And he's going to do what's good for there. He's not going to vote for it because nobody in Tennessee is going to put up with this BS. No one in Tennessee wants gun control. I can tell you that right now. The only people in Tennessee want gun control. It's like cops down in Memphis and, you know, a couple of your nut job people in the country music up there in Nashville. Dixie Chicks, maybe. But, you know, for the most part, Tennessee, very gun-loving state. You go to Lamar Alexander, you say, let it go to a vote. You know, you can always vote no, but let it go to a vote. And, you know, then you go and you say, I voted no, and I'm going to give you a couple pigs. So you give that guy a couple pigs, and pigs go a long way in Tennessee, let me tell you. If you've never been to a pig roast, go to a pig roast in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I tell you, pigs go a long way down there. So you have that. Yes, I'm using a cheat sheet here. So you have him. You have your 4 people, 5 people. Yeah, you have your 55 over here. This baby is going to a vote. And the vote is going to be 55, 56, 57 to 40 something. About 41. That's your vote. So it's past this body. Boom. We've grown all our pigs. Our pigs are leaving the home. We've got our bill. It's all pork heavy. And it's over here in this place we call the house. And all of a sudden, the whole doomsday scenario comes in. I can see it now. It was written in the book of Revelations. Hellfire, brimstone, a bill came from the Senate to the House. It is unheard of. It's actually all right. So, your President Obama, the bill's passed the pig farm, passed the Senate. Now it's going to the House. And here's the deal with the House. Here's the thing you got to understand about the House. The House has a big, wonderful number, 51%. Ain't nothing going through the House that doesn't have 51% vote one way or another. It may be 51% yes, it may be 51% no, but ain't coming to the floor unless Bonner knows what that 51% is and he agrees with it. End of story. So, this is where the Democrats say, aha, well, what's the whole point of wasting this thing in the Senate if the House ain't going to vote for it? Because Bonner don't want gun control. I'll tell you what right now, Bonner does want gun control. Because he's gonna play with this thing 3 ways to Sunday to where it comes to his advantage. Because that's the way it's working. Why don't we just do that to the beginning? Because if we do that at the beginning, then this thing's loaded with Republican crap that we never pass the Senate, which is going to get thrown about anyways. So we've already loaded this thing with Republican crap that will pass the Senate, as opposed to loading it with Republican crap that won't pass the Senate. So he's going to get this bill, it's going to come to the House, he's going to send it to committees. There's 2 people that Obama's going to go to that day, or at least somebody in his staff is going to go to, probably Leslie. One of them is Representative McCarthy. McCarthy is this interesting guy. A lot of people would say Andrew. No, he's going to McCarthy. He's going to Representative McCarthy for a reason. Because McCarthy talks to these Republicans every freaking day. If you're in California, hey, he wants to know what's going on in your district. If you're in New York, he wants to know what's going on in your district. If you're in Georgia, he wants to know what's going down in Georgia. Yeah, you're going to be having dinner anytime soon. If you're in Tennessee, he wants to know if you're going to be roasting a pig anytime soon. This guy wants to know what's going on with the Republicans because he wants to be able to call your office up, say, hey, we got to vote on the floor. This is the way I want you to vote. You're going to vote that way. So that's the guy Obama's going to, or at least Lindsay's probably going to, because hey, she can sell herself that way. Representative McCarthy. On the other side, on the Democrat side, you got a guy named Hoyer. Who is he? He's the McCarthy of the Democrats. He's the guy who says, hey, Democrat, hey, there's a vote up there. You better be voting this way or we ain't giving you anything. You know, so that's the way that game works. And so what you're going to do is you're going to find out how many Republicans will vote yes. There's going to be a number of them. I mean, he'll be able to quote you a ballpark figure. And then you're going to go over to Hoyer and you're going to say, Hoyer, do we have everyone on board? And he's going to say, well, yeah, probably 70, 80% on board. So that's going to leave you with kind of a gap here. If you can get 70, 80% on board and McCarthy can get half that, you have 51%. If not, then you got to do some selling. In politics, it's called the horse trade. But I like the term that I use called the shell game. You're going to find who is favorable to you, what's in the bill that you can get this passed through. And this is why I said at the very, very beginning, you want Ryan on your side. You want him representing you. Why? Because this guy is going to go to a representative in Congress. Her name is Michelle Bachmann from Minnesota. You might remember she ran for president, lost terribly, nice looking chick. She is going to be the person Ryan's going to go to, says this thing's got to pass. Because it's got these constitutional amendments and it's got this Tea Party crap loading into it that we want, but you guys got to pull out all of the crap that the Senate put into it that would get our people unelected. So it's got to pass. It's got to pass. So Michelle Bachmann runs these people called the Tea Party. They're a small subset group of Republicans that are a bit of troublemakers for their party as of late. And she's going to go to them and say, this thing's got to pass. It's got to go this way. We got to put in a bunch of amendments to take all of this garbage language out about banning assault rifles and banning clips and getting that stuff out so our people can pass the NRA sniff test in the Deep South. But we got to keep the pork in there for our friends so this baby will pass and they'll be everybody's big happy family. And do you know what Representative Ryan got for us? He got this vote on a constitutional amendment that Congress has to present a balanced budget every session. We're going to get a vote on that. That's our big cash cow right now. This is what's going to get us reelected. So we got to vote for that. So you're going to get the whole Tea Party into Congress by that. Okay, which is nowhere near a majority of the Republicans. However, there's another person you're going to go to. She's a New Yorker. Her name is Yvette Clarke, Representative Yvette Clarke. Nice woman. Sweetest little thing until you piss her off. And you're going to go to her. Now, who does she run? She runs what's called the Congressional Black Caucus. And if Obama wants anything passed in the House, he's going to have to go through them. They're his picks. They're the people that he's looking out for, number one. They represent probably some of the poorest of the poor people, some of the poorest of the poor districts, African American needs, and they have a pretty good in-touch reality with the Democrats. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, because once you got Bachmann on one side, you're going to piss off a lot of Democrats. These are your peeps. Your peeps are going to go to bat for you, and they're going to get those Democrats back on board. So you're going to go to Yvette Clarke, you're going to say, hey, House is going, all these amendments have gone through. Can you at least muster enough votes to get it to pass? Okay, make it look good, right? Split it right down the middle. So you got Yvette Clarke on one side, you got Michelle Bachmann on the other side. You get these two people on your side, and you're going to pull about 53-54% of the vote. This is my little secret weapon that I'm going to give you Democrats. And I'm gonna tell you right now, this is how you're gonna pull it off. This is what you call your fifth column. You get those two and Bonner on board. You don't need Pelosi. You don't need freaking Canner. You don't need Hoyer. You don't need McCarthy. These people can get it done for you. About 53% of Congress will back them within reason. You probably have to throw in a few cash cows, but ultimately that baby's gonna go through 53%, 52, 53, right? But now it's loaded up with a whole bunch of crap, and it's got to go back to the Senate. And so now here's your major problem. The Senate's going to try to put language back through. The filibuster is going to get threatened. You can't put in cash cows in it. Because if the Senate puts through cash cows, boom, it's back here, and you've lost your fifth column. So everything that's bare bones at this point has gone back to the Senate, and the Senate's got to muster this vote. Harry Reid's got a problem. This is his only problem at this point. He's got 9 guys that need to get reelected. Okay? There's almost an absolute need that he needs at least a good portion of these 9 guys to get reelected. To pass the Senate, and all of the pubs at this point, they're on board with this baby. This thing's going through. He can get Sanders and King on board, because he got them on board at the very beginning. There's no way they're going to vote against all those cash cows for their districts. So at this point, the question is, which of my people bites the bullet for the team and votes yes? 9 people, not all of them can say yes. They can't. And then the reason why they Kansas because they will get crucified back home. In the deep South, they're voting yes on this thing. The NRA is already going to be up in arms because gun control passed. So the question is, whom do I sacrifice? And that I can't actually tell you. I don't know who's well liked and who's not well liked on that end of the house. And at the point, it don't really matter, because whoever is well liked enough that they will take that bullet for the team, and they will vote, they will vote yes. You're going to have 5 people that have to vote no. So whoever you like, you get them to vote yes. That's the easy part. It's the 5 who are going to vote no. All of them are going to be from the South. You're going to be looking at West Virginia casting a vote. You're going to be looking at South Carolina, got to cast a vote. So, there's a couple right there. You can go over to the other side of the aisle. I don't know that Colorado would be a good choice, but certainly there's an election that's up. There's a vote. It's 9 people. And it's passed the House. You've either done it the traditional way, going to Hoyer and McCarthy and getting it done that way, or you do it the fifth column way, through Bachman and through Clark, but it's passed there. Now you're back to the Senate. Now you have those 5 guys bite it for the bullet, and this baby barely passes through. 51 to 48, 49, right? Goes from here to here. President Obama, boom. If he vetoes this, he's dumb as a fox here. If he vetoes it, it goes back here and it blows up, right? So he's got to sign it. The only thing that derails this whole process is if you can't get 5 people to take the bullet, as Harry Reid, and they got to put all the language back in. They got, you get your hardcore people from California and New York, make a stink about it. It don't pass here. You got to have all your Democrats. You got to have your homies on board, or it ain't gonna pass. So that leaves it. It's gone here, went over here, got changed over here, goes back over here. If they don't pass it, it goes back over here and it dies. If they pass it, assuming you don't get filibustered, and let's face it, you solved the filibuster problem the first time around by offering all this cash cows. They can vote no. It's still going to go through. You're going to get your cash cows. You can look good for the troops. So at this particular point, you're playing a shell game of who can I sacrifice? And at that point, it's a light game. Maybe you can get a couple people who are really well liked enough in the polls that can bounce back on this baby in the upcoming election year and sell themselves like crazy, or you might get lucky enough to get a crappy guy like Todd Aiken who blows an election for you. But at the end of the day, if you can't get those 5 people to bite the bullet, you're no good. So you have your votes. It's signed and went to the president, and now you have your gun control. What is realistically is that going to look like? Is that going to be banning the guns? No. Is that going to be a ban on gun clips? I typically would doubt that, because again, these guys that are biting the bullet, it's got to be close. So they can't afford to have gun clips and assault rifles banned on an NRA watch unless they can guarantee the NRA support in their upcoming elections. Hey, we went to bat, we argued against it, but ultimately it had to go through because, or for whatever. They have to be able to sell that, because the NRA are their backers, they're their guys, they're their peeps. If you're not backing us, you're backing the other guy. And this is the Deep South. We love our Bibles, we love our guns, stay out of our club. That's basically it. So you're unlikely to get that. What you're likely to get is a couple tax initiatives you're going to get through right away. You're going to get a medication initiative through to fulfill your obligations to Pfizer, because you want Pfizer contributing to your campaigns. Wesley Smith, basically your drug companies. Anytime, I'm going to tell you a little secret about Washington. Anytime somebody says anything about mental health, the people who are running that legislation is the drug companies. Why? Because they're going to get a kickback down the line. It's just basically honest. So you're going to see that part in there. You're going to see the Department of Education get some funding for some school study grants. You're going to see a change in the social services grant so that the states that want to can hire police officers to deal with crimes against children, which is something that's coming up as a whole proposal bill anyhow separately about August, late August, early October. So that's probably going to be part of this early gun control bill if they can push it through. You're going to see a limitation upon ammo rounds, some regulations as to how many can be sold, how they're sold. That's going to kick in. You're going to see limitations, and you're probably going to see some type of what they're calling universal background checks. I'll be honest with you, and this is probably the only piece of gun control proposal that I'm going to tell you that I actually like and support, is this. And it's the idea being that you have your agency, ATFE, whatever, and at these gun shows or at the freaking I know the hardcore right just said you didn't just bring up the ATFE, alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and explosives. You're going to see some type of legislation so that they're going to be able to check IDs at gun shows, at gun shops, what have you. And the idea that I like behind that, it's been put out there, and I'm jumping on this baby because it's so good, is the idea that you would require a person being a United States citizen to have to present a passport upon entry to any type of store or show place that sells firearms. And the reason we do this is because the passport ID process is run by the State Department. The person has to pay for it. The government ain't paying for it. The person has to pay for it. The government does the check. It pockets a finder's fee or however you want to look at it. There's a few taxes that are taxed onto what the person pays to get the passport. There's a criminal background check. There is a services background check. There is a citizen background check. Are you a United States citizen? If not, you ain't getting a passport. And there's a mental health background check. Has this person been convicted into a mental health facility? Has the person at any time taken, are you taking mental health drugs? There's a whole bunch of questions you have to answer. Basically put, if you looked at the actual law about the passports, you have to pass all of these checklists. And this universal background thing that the NRA threw out there and the Republicans threw out there and the Democrats are gobbling up, they love this baby, covers all that, and that's all covering the passport thing. So it's been thrown out there that the passport might be a good idea. That's probably going to be in that part of the House. That's going to get thrown in there. We want the background checks, throwing background checks at the passport. You might piss off the Bachman crowd, but as a whole, you need the 51%, you can play with the votes a little bit. So you'll probably see that go through. And you'll probably see some type of taxation. You'll probably see some type of tax relief. It's almost a necessary part to pass the House. I have tax and spend up here. Tax is your house. Because a lot of people would say it the other way around. The House spends the money, the Senate taxes the money. But to be honest, most of your taxes are going through the House. Most of your pork barrel is going through the Senate, hence tax and spend. The real reality is you're going to have a couple extra writers. Warned you in the beginning, it's pork. It's a pig that are tacked into this. And all in all, it's going to cost a good chunk of change, a few $1 billion. Probably looking at about $200-300 billion over 10 years, right? So do you want to pay that? Is the question. Is it there in and of itself? Do you want to spend all this money for what about half, maybe a third of what the president proposed, plus what all these other jokers wanted, plus the pork? And the pork's the big part about that, because the pork, that's that money, and it's going to add up. It's debt. We have to pass a continuing resolution to pay for the debt, up the debt ceiling, so we can pay for the pork to get the gun control passed through. So that's the way politics works. Sorry, I hate to tell you that. You want gun control, it's going to cost money. Somebody's got to pay for it. If you got a ban tomorrow of all firearms, somebody's got to pay for that. Somebody's got to pay for the enforcement of that. One of the arguments against gun control is that we're not paying for the enforcement now. So when we be able to pay for the enforcement then? Point is, somebody's got to pay for that. That's all covered over here. It's been written by the Democrats. The pork's been thrown into it. It's amended by the Republicans, but they can't really toss a bunch of writers on there. They're going to lose all these cash cows. Their Senate buddies are going to lose the pigs, and they're going to get pissed off. So it's going to get amended over here. It's going to go back over here. It's going to get a final vote over here, and then it goes up there. So basically, that's not what you're looking at. You're not going to get any of these big initiatives. This is an election year. Deep South election year. Look at the election map, and you'll know what you're going to get and what you're not going to get. You ain't going to get a ban on assault rifles. You ain't going to get a ban on munitions clips. You got very, 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 very few states out west. You got very, very few states at all past, the Rocky Mountains. In fact, I dare say you don't have a state past the Rocky Mountains unless you count Oregon way up here. So everything's in the Deep South. Everybody but Florida's on the table in the Deep South, which is your hardcore NRA supporting junkies. And half are Republican, half are Democrat. I mean, that's just the rules for you. And at the end of the day, nothing's going to ever pass here first in the Senate unless Harry Reid is absolutely sure he has to sell the least amount of Democrats possible, because there's a couple other numbers that are up here, which you probably can't see. If you can, hey, I want your eyes. 11 over here. That's the number of Republican seats currently up. I think it jumped up to 14 when a couple guys said, we ain't coming back. But you have 11 over here, you have 22 over here. 11 and 22. 9 of those are in the South. They're in NRA states. It becomes an issue. 9 out of 22. All right? Now I want you to do the math so you understand how this thing has to pass the Senate. 9 out of 22, you have a 5-seat difference. If you have anything close, if you have somebody who becomes an idiot over here in the Deep South and loses, these numbers change drastically, and now you're looking at close to 50 over here, and you're stuck in the 40s. That means after 2014, this baby, who's likely still to be Republicans at the end of the day, and this baby, who's still, we're looking at it, it's pretty good. Odds are right now it's going to be Democrat. But if this NRA thing gets close, you've got nine Republicans who have to back the NRA's, whatever they can sell to the NRA, they've got to back it. So, if they're on this, if they're on the pork list, they let it go to a vote, so they get the pork. They vote no, so they please their NRA buddies, and the bill gets passed through. Anything short of that, it ain't going to a vote. If Harry Reid can't get 3 people to bite the bullet, dump the NRA, and try to, actually I think 3 or 4, and try to come back in these states, this thing comes close. It comes very close, depending on how Massachusetts splits at the end of the day. It becomes very, very close. So you have this election process is just absolutely irately insane. So that's how gun control is going to get passed through. And it is. There's going to be a bill. It's going to go through. The question is whether it's, at the end of the day, the Senate will table it or they'll pass it. That's I'm telling you the truth. That is the honest truth. The bill starts in the House, it's going to get tabled there. It ain't even coming to a vote. Harry Reid will not allow it. But if it starts over here, you can play with the other party, and it can get here, and it can get past here. Very, very squeaky. And when I said that 5th column, if you can get Bachmann and Clark to agree with you, as Speaker Bonner, you can get that 51%, you can get it passed, you can get it to the other body. And as long as the majority of your party can pass their elections, you're okay. You're okay with doing this. Kick the can. It's the Senate's problem, and he has done that a lot, by the way. You guys would be surprised on a lot of the things that has actually gone through that way. Most of which gets tabled back over here because they don't like what the traditional process adds over here. So you do the Bachman-Clark fifth column compromise, kick it back over to the Senate, and you got the baby passed. Now, of course, James would disagree with me, and he's free to do so. I'm pretty sure my cousin Jeff and Senator Henry is probably going right now. I wish you wouldn't have mentioned me. But, you know, at least now, when you guys are doing this, it deserves a vote. There's your path to yes. Anything short of that, your vote is no. I can't, and I got to ask you guys this, and I know now I'm being facetious for facetious sake, but where the freak is the speechwriter who's on weed when they come up with these slogans, right? Last year, it was anybody but Obama. Do you remember that? It was like this time last year, February last year. You saw bumper stickers on cars. I'll vote for anybody but Obama. I'll vote for a donkey before I vote for Obama. You know, you could have put God, who was the worst of the worst a couple years ago? You could have put Howard Dean on Howard Dean could have been a Republican. People would have said, yeah, I'd vote for Howard Dean over Obama. You know, it could have been anybody but Obama. You could put anybody. If it's anybody but Obama, it could be anybody. So it was a very bad slogan thing on the Republican side. And now you got your Democrats out here. You're going out, well, it deserves a vote. It deserves a vote. The president said it deserves a vote. It deserves a vote. You're right. It does deserve a vote. We vote these jokers up there so they'll vote. It don't mean they're going to vote yes. Odds are, if you're Harry Reid, your people are voting no. So, there again, you know, I'm being quite open and honest with you guys. You're Harry Reid. You got to figure out who you're going to slaughter to the NRA for this, so that you not only can get this gun control bill through to the president, but you can maintain control of Congress at the end of 2014, at least on the Senate side. The House, if the Democrats think they're taking the House, they're taking something. So, honest to God, I'm giving it to you straight. That's how it's going down. Get yourself some coffee. Go make that.